Good morning, everybody. I'm out here today. I want to talk about what to do after the shot. It's bow season comes in actually tomorrow, and naturally I got to work the first 3 days. So mosquitoes bother me out here. So I want to cover some things. A lot of guys, this might be your first bow season, and you know I'm really actually pretty decent at finding animals that I've managed to get an arrow in, and so we'll talk about that a little bit and. From what I do from start to finish, okay? And again, I apologize. My neighbor's over there hard at it. I love him to death, and but he believes in work all the time, and he's pretty noisy. So here we go. All right, number one, to make it easy to find the animals that you shoot. Number one, it's not so much as being a good shot. It's not shooting outside your range. And I'm not going to preach on all these things here very long. I'm just going to be honest. If you take iffy shots, you're going to spend a lot of time on your hands and knees blood trailing. And oftentimes with sad endings to them stories. So I would suggest that whatever, we got all year to work on our shooting, and some people are gifted better than others. I'm not a really good shot. But I know how far my effective range is, and I'm not going to shoot outside that. Because then things might go astray, and it's my fault if that happens. The whole thing you want to do bow hunting, if you do this long enough, you're gonna lose an animal. I mean, I'm not lying. I'm being honest. If you shoot enough animals, you're gonna lose one. And so the key to happiness with that is knowing that you did everything right. That I lost that animal, and it's not my fault. I did everything right, and there are so many uncontrollables when shooting at wild game that I mean, things happen. You know what I'm saying? But you want to be able to give, not only it's not your fault at the shot, but it's also not your fault at the effort that you put into finding that joker, right? And sometimes I've shot animals, and I've been with people on blood trails that in just a minute I immediately knew the animal was going to live. I mean, it's not we're trailing a deer that can keep going and going and going for days. We'll never find him. So you'll learn that with experience on when to say, hey, he ain't dead. But so let's go over some things I do. But that's the first thing you do. Number one, you work on your shooting all the time, but being a good shot does not matter as long as you shoot within your range of being a good shot. You take only shots at broadside or slightly quartering away animals, and you shoot at animals that ain't wired. And what do you mean by wired? Well, the joker's, he saw you, or he jumped, he bounded around. They're busy over there. He bounded around over there to the side over there, and he's on pins and needles. If you shoot at that animal, there's no telling where you're going to hit. If you shoot at animals that are pretty close to you, they'll almost always drop at the sound, and I don't mean turn inside out. I mean they'll just drop straight down. Especially if a deer's head is down, he's feeding. If you shoot and your bow's kind of loud, his head will come up, and his body will go down like a seesaw effect, and he'll drop way farther than a deer that's feeding or that's walking, got his head up. And also a deer that's taking slow steps is not going to drop as much as one that's standing still, in my experience. And so there you have it. You got to learn how to read deer body language and stuff like that. And then you get into, I apologize for that, it's annoying me. I know worse than y'all, but they're pretty loud over there. But you get into, say all right, now we've shot a deer. It's broadside, we made what we think is a good shot. Or it don't matter, you shoot the deer. The first thing you do is listen and watch. You listen, where did he go? He ran over here. That's the last place I saw him, right there by that big tree right there. Well, then this is a must. You pull your compass out, not your phone, not all them gadgets you got to play with for a minute. You pull your compass out, and you get a compass reading to the exact spot you last saw that deer run or heard him. Maybe it's real thick and you can only see him right here, but you hear him way out there, and you get a bearing on where you heard him at. For a couple of reasons. Number one, if you don't have any blood, it gives you a direction to go, and then you can start gridding that direction. And number two, if you're in a tree, when you get down on the ground, and maybe it's dark when you get your foot on the ground, everything looks different. You can turn around one time and you won't know what direction the deer was. I'm talking about hunting in the swamp, hunting wood in the woods, not in a field or something. But you get a compass bearing on where you last heard or saw the deer. And oftentimes you'll hear them crash. If you make a good shot, 90% of the time, you'll hear the deer go down. You mark that. I don't dilly-dally around on blood. I take my time. I get my stuff together. 15, 20 minutes gone by. I saw where the arrow went in his lungs, and I heard him crash. I get the compass bearing and walk straight to him. And I mean, I do that often. And there's some fun in blood trailing an animal. It's cool, especially if you know you got him. But it's time consuming, and I hunt down here in pretty warm weather, and I don't want to kill 30 minutes blood trailing an animal I heard fall. So, cause I want to get him on ice usually sometimes pretty quick. A couple of things I do though, if I'm in the tree stand or I'm in a set location hunting, waiting on the critters to come to me, I always use that compass. But one thing that makes it easier, when you shoot the deer's walking through here or whatever, the hog, you shoot him and he runs, you mark where that was at, then you look right back, he was standing right there. And you gotta have a landmark. He's standing right to the left of that tree or by that palmetto. Or even if I'm in a tree stand, I would grab my judo and shoot it where he was standing at right there. So when I get down, things are looking different. I got this fluorescent stuff on my arrows. I can walk over there and there's my starting point. So it helps me to find him. If I shoot him and they run a direction and they go through a gap, I'll grab my judo right quick and shoot to where I last seen in that gap right there. And then I can get down, and that helps me. I get down, I go over there, well, here's my judo right here, and I start looking for blood. So it's, I mean, there's a lot of things extra you can do that'll help you. Carry you I carry some paper towel with me. It's in my pack for obvious reasons, but also when you, like if you shoot an animal, I don't tear out a whole page and hang it, a whole thing and hang it up there. I carry little thumb-sized pieces. Here's blood, I drop one down. Go on to the next blood, I'll drop one down. I go on to the next blood, I'll drop one down. And I get a line on where he's at. And I'm talking about a blood trail that I didn't hear the animal fall. And I get a line and I just keep going like that. And you lose blood, you back up away from the last blood. I see a lot of people are bogged down on the last blood. I back up from that and get my line, you know, the last 2 or 3 pieces of paper I drop, and then I look ahead. If you'll get where you get low to the ground and look ahead, especially if you're in thick woods, and watch your line, you can almost tell exactly where the deer went. And then you go back and to the side of that trail or that thing you think the deer went, so you don't stomp up the blood, and walk and look for blood. If it's near dark, if it's getting pretty close to dark and I shoot one, I'll sit down and wait till black dark, because I trail much better with a flashlight, because the blood will kind of shine. It's wet, you'll get a shine off with your flashlight. When it's tough to see before it's dark and it don't shine as good with the light. So that's one thing that I do. Usually I'll sit right down. If I didn't hear the deer fall, I'll sit right down. So what do you do if you're walking and maybe you shoot a hog right here? What do you do then? I carry on my quiver, I carry some of these little glow-in-the-dark things. They clipped on my quiver here, and I usually have more than that on there, but I've used them marking some stuff. And then immediately I shoot the animal, he runs, I do the same thing, get my compass bearing. Either I'll put that clip and hang it on a limb, or I'll pull out of my side pocket. I keep paper there. I'll pull out, drop a piece of paper on the ground. I walk to where he was standing when I shot him, I'll drop a piece of paper there, and then I've already got a compass bearing, and then I go sit down for a minute. So why do I sit down for a minute? I sit down to get my wits about me. You're already pumped with adrenaline. You can make some bad decisions if you get in a hurry at this point. You just sit down and rest, get your heart rate back down. You don't think clear, get your thinking clear, run everything through your head. Where did I hit him? Where did I hit him? Start just clearing things up like that. And then once you calm and you've slowed down some, then you begin to track your animal. But if you, like I said, if you get to a loss of blood, if you lung shoot a deer, he's going to run hard, or even heart shoot him. He'll run hard, and he don't care where he goes. He don't care if he's on a trail or not. Usually if he's on a trail, it's because it's the easiest way to run, and that's how he's going. And he'll run off the trail. He'll go anywhere. So if you lung or heart shoot one, that's what he'll do. If you liver shoot one or gut shoot one, he may run hard for a bit, then he starts going where he wants to go. He gets on a trail, or he heads somewhere, usually to a thicket or something like that. I always hear people say that a deer gets gut shot, he'll go to water. I've never found a gut shot deer in water. It could be just me. He goes to the thickest place he can find and lays down. And the ones that I've found. But you don't push him. You get your arrow, you read your arrow, you didn't hear him fall, you saw that you made a bad shot. You read your arrow, if it's dark blood, that's probably a liver hit, and or if it's got gut matter on it. That's the ones you sit down for a minute and you say, well, if it's like down here in really hot weather during the summer, I can't afford to leave them overnight sometimes. If it's like 90 degrees today or whatever, but I will give them 4, 5, 6 hours. I'll give him a long time. And a lot of times if he died right away, he'll be spoiled with that. So sometimes I don't give him that. But I'll just take my time trailing. You know, you're going to start your blood trail, and it may take you 2 hours to find him if you're having to pick along and not a lot of blood, because he's going to go a good ways. So, you know, you add that to the time of you finding him. And many times I have left deer overnight and had to shoot them again the next morning. And they were weak, and they bounced, went 10 yards and went right back down. But I mean, I've had to do that before. I was hunting with my buddy Chris Spikes one time. He shot a deer, he one-lunged him. Lance Coleman and I was helping him to find him. He one-lunged him with a 2-inch wide tree shark, and there were blood everywhere. We found clots of blood as big as your hand. And the deer bedded 2 or 3 times. And he shot the deer that morning, like, you know, 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. We found the deer at about 5, and the deer jumped up and run 50 yards. And Chris shot him again and hit him in the same hole. But I'm just saying, it was like that many hours, like 10 hours later, we found the deer over a mile away from where he shot him at. And so you have to learn to read sign. In my opinion, if you want to lung a deer, you want to push him. You want to keep him keep him bleeding and keep him going. If you got lung blood, you stay on him. And every time he jumps up and runs a little bit, you listen, he ain't going far, he'll go right back down. And that's just my opinion. People's going to say, oh, don't do that, don't do that. That's what I do. And but a gut shot deer, you want to give him time, trail him slow. And when you're going up into thick stuff, you pay attention with you know, I just started recently hunting with binoculars, but I take my time and I really bear down and look. A lot of times you'll pick him out, and I've actually shot them bedded when I ease up into a thick place like that. So you want to pay attention on that. And you can get too much help trailing a deer. If it comes down to grid searching, then, you know, you get plenty of people if you can in your grid searching area. But if you're on just a little struggling of a blood trail, you can have too many people. And everybody, some of them's going to want to go, they ain't going to want to stay. And you know, the guy who shoots the animal is the one that calls it off, nobody else. And I mean, like I said, that comes with experience on knowing when you are not going to get this one, but you trail blood until you can't find any more. So that's some of my tips on blood trailing an animal. Most of it boils down to make good shots. And by making good shots, it don't mean you got to shoot 100 arrows a day practicing. It means you have to be well disciplined. I've seen places like Fort Stewart, I hunt there, and they used to have, you had to go pass a shooting test. And for a traditional archer, it was, I think it was 2 out of 3, or either 3 shots in a pie plate at 15 yards and 20 yards. And there's no test for when not to shoot. That's what's the most important thing. I let a whole lot of 20-yard deer go, and hogs. And I shoot pretty strong at 20 yards. But I know from experience that 1/2 a step can make what would be a perfect lung shot into an awful shot that's going to have you maybe in the end of the day there really upset. But just know that if you lose one, it ain't the end of the world. But if you lose one and you don't gain some knowledge, then you have failed, because there's a reason that happened. And you got to know why. You got to know was the deer wired? Did I just make a little bit of a bad shot? Maybe he was quartering to me more than I thought. All kind of stuff like that. You got to know. You got to know, and learn from that experience. And when you make perfect shots, learn from that experience as well. It's okay to, if the weather's right and you know he's laying over there 40 yards, you get a whole lot of experience blood trailing one. And there's so many things. I mean, we hadn't shot nothing right now, so I can't take you on a blood trail. I know the season in Georgia comes in tomorrow, and some folks are gonna shoot some stuff, and I hope they find every one of them, but maybe these tips will help and as you go into the year hunting. So that's just a few of my game recovery tips right there. And I hope they help somebody. It took a whole lot of, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I found everything I've shot, right? I haven't. But I will say that I no longer, I used to in my younger years. I mean, I've killed, me and my buddy Mike Mitchum went to a place that I hunted. We went up 100 miles or so from here scouting the other day, and we went to a tree that I killed a hog at 27 yards, heart shot him, perfect shot. But, and I used to think that, I was proud of that, but then as I was talking to him about it, it dawned on me like, that's terrible, you know. I should be shooting, you know, that was in my younger years when just killing something was what was on my mind, and not the hunt, and not worrying about the outcome of a bad shot. And so much bad could have happened at that. All he had to do was turn a little bit, and I've shot him up through the shoulder, or I've gut shot him. So keep your shots close. Keep your shots close. And I've heard people say, I shot him, I normally don't shoot it past 20 yards, and it was 25 or 30, but it was a big old buck. That has nothing to do with it. The size of the animal has nothing to do with whether you shoot or not. It could be a little bitty yearling or a popping young buck. You don't shoot if he's not in your range. Don't do that. So, I mean, or you could end up upset, and don't ever make an excuse on, I lost him, I shouldn't have, but I did anyway. That's all your fault. Don't ever, you know, you should kick your own butt for that. Don't make those kind of shots. Alrighty, I hope everybody has a good season. Y'all be safe. I can tell you one guy that won't be falling out of a tree, and that'll be me. And but I no doubt gonna have a challenging hunt this year. And I at first I had butterflies about it, and I was worrying about, man, I may not kill nothing. But now I am excited. I've got some good places scouted, and the persimmons won't be there long. We'll transition from persimmons to from soft mast to hard mast, and there's a lot to learn as we go through that. And I'll be trying to show you guys what I do. But I really feel like we're gonna get on some animals in the next few days. Or I gotta work the next 3, but after that, we'll get on some animals. And what really had me pumped as I got to thinking about it, last year I hunted off the ground several times. I don't remember how many times, but I had deer under 20 yards almost every time. And if you keep getting yourself in them kind of positions with deer that close, sooner or later it's gonna happen. And we learned from every one of those hunts. So there you have it. And one other thing I'm going to add about helping you with your blood trails is learn to shoot at the bottom third of an animal, because you can make a double lung shot above mid-body and may not have a drop of blood on the ground. Learn to shoot, and if he squats a little bit, you may shoot into no man's land up there, and that ain't good. So learn to shoot at the bottom third. That way, even if you only get an entry wound, then you'll get a lot of blood on the ground. And if you're up in a tree stand, naturally you can't, you know, if he's close, you can't shoot down there, but you wanna shoot for the exit if you're in a tree stand. So y'all have a good season. Y'all keep the good Lord first. And I've really enjoyed doing these few videos about getting ready for hunting season with the longbow and all that, and I had a lot of good comments, and I appreciate you guys' comments. And but I hope more than anything to do with the bow and the arrow and the deer and the hogs, that y'all realize that Christ is King. And if you don't get anything out of my videos, you need to get that. Drop down on your knees, ask the good Lord to forgive you of your sins, accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, and live a new life, a really, really good one. And on earth it could be troublesome, but when we cross over, it'll be great. It's called heaven, actually. How about that? Y'all keep the good Lord first. See you next time.